Hey Merfolk fans, I'm Joe. Thanks very much for joining me today. If you'd like to support my channel and all the videos that I make, please check out the link above to my Patreon page. I'd really appreciate it. I'm back with the fifth and final round of this Modern Friendly League. We're currently sitting at 3-1 after having successfully navigated blue-white control, spirits, Bant spirits, I guess, 5-color humans, and then we lost to Grixis Death Shadow, unfortunately, getting a little bit stuck on lands. The opponent had double Death Shadow backed up by great other spells in games 2 and 3, so there wasn't a lot we can do about that. Hoping to do better in this match. It looks like I won the die roll, which we love to see. And this is a beautiful opening hand. We're hoping for a creature deck so we can get some nice value out of Trickster. Opponent mulligan to 6 even, so feeling quite good about closing out this league 4-1. Windswept Teeth, so green deck, maybe Tidebinder Mage will be useful out of the sideboard. Oh man, Experiment 1, so this is some kind of aggro deck. We tend to do really well against these guys. I sort of bluff some mana, just make them, think I might have something. So here, Spreading Sea is an interesting draw. Obviously, Trickster is good on their turn. I can either slow the opponent down or try to trade with the Experiment 1. But since I need lands, I think I went with you know what? I went with a Lord here because Lord is always a good opening against aggro decks. So Sacred Foundry, it looks like Zoo basically, right? Okay, so Goblin Guide and Curd Ape. So all right, double evolve on Experiment 1 looks pretty nice. Hopefully Goblin Guide would reveal a land. Did not. I think he revealed, Phantasmal Image. It's sort of rough. We really need some lands. Starting to question whether running out the Lord was correct or not, and even whether I should block the Goblin Guide here. But since my creatures get a little bigger, if I play more of them, I feel like I have a bit of time, and I can probably wait. And at this point, not drawing land, I think it's going to be correct just to hold up Trickster. Now, there's so many options with Trickster. The opponent is going straight to combat. This is very clearly Tarkus command mana, so we have to be very careful with our blocks. I choose to bring him in pre-combat. Now, Curd Ape is a creature that gets blown out by Trickster because you take away his text and he becomes a 1/1. But Trickster is currently a 3/3. He could block favorably, not favorably necessarily, but evenly with a Goblin Guide in the event of an Atarkus command. So we're going to tap their biggest creature. Opponent still goes to attacks. This is reading very clearly like an Atarkus command attack. Still no land. Opponent revealed a Silvergill that time. And since we're expecting the Atarkus command, we really can't afford to block the Goblin Guide and block the Curd Ape and try to get like a double trade going to slow them down. But it's a Lightning Bolt, not a Tarkus command. So I read that a little bit wrong, but in the end, it was still correct because opponent had the removal to make my blocks a little bit unfavorable. We got rid of his Goblin Guide, so I shouldn't say the blocks are unfavorable, but the bolt allowed him to continue to have to press an advantage in board development. Drawing a Silvergill, I play it because we need bodies to sort of slow them down. Really need lands here. So getting pretty frustrating at this point. We're hoping the Experiment 1 can't at least double evolve so I can trade with something here. Again, could be a Tarkus command, so need to be careful with buffs, but this is really the only choice for blocks anyway. There it is. I'm going to go to 10 and then take 7 more, so I'm down to 3, and here's finally a land, but we're quite far behind. We only have chump blocks at this point. And I note that copying Curd Ape would be poor because I don't control a forest, so my Curd Ape would be a 1/1, and copying Experiment 1 is also poor because it would also be a 1/1. Let's play a Lord. Hope that the opponent can't just bolt it or something. Okay, so Bushwhacker has haste. It's not going to buff the other creatures, but this means that the opponent can squeeze 4 through, and that's it. So once again, I got a bit screwed on lands like I did against Grixis Death Shadow. Really frustrating because we are heavily favored against these kinds of decks. I mean, just imagine if I had 2 more lands. Double Master of Waves just crushes these guys. They have literally, I guess maybe they might have Path to Exile, but there's only a few answers in their entire deck. I had Master of Waves with double Phantasmal Image. Should have won this game, but instead the opponent squeaked through, got me to -1. So very, very frustrating game 1, especially after the unfortunate loss to Grixis Death Shadow. Let's go to game 2 and see what kind of good sideboard stuff I have. Back for game 2. Obviously, I'll be on the play since I lost game 1. I took out 4 Reejereys. They're just a little weak to bolt. Took out 2 Phantasmal Images. The opponent doesn't have a lot of great creatures to copy, since a lot of their creatures kind of rely on the lands that they control. So it took out 6 creatures, brought in 2 Echoing Truths, 2 Dismembers, and best of all, 2 Tidebinder Mages. So we'd love to draw an AEther Vial. Well, 3 lands, Master of Waves is pretty good. This slows the opponent down plenty. They mulliganed again. I think they went bottom this time. They did. Okay. All right, looks like they have a 1-drop, not unexpected, and it's Wild Negate. So I really, after missing all my land drops, I wanted to hit my land drops. It seemed like a good opportunity to slow them down. Don't let them play 2 spells next turn, and hopefully draw into that 4th land so I can feel comfortable. This effectively shifts the momentum to the opponent, but the fact that I have Harbingers in hand is going to give me plenty of time to slow them down. So here's a Curd Ape, no haste or anything, so just taking 2. We will get to bounce that guy on our turn. Okay, so we drew an AEther Vial, which is really quite nice because we get to play a 2-drop and an AEther Vial this turn. I kind of would have preferred it to be a land, but we'll bounce there, Wild Negate, play the AEther Vial, and I think the opponent mistakenly F6'd or whatever through their first main phase. Like, I just saw that they were passing priority and clicked, and so they had to go to combat with just the Curd Ape, and then second main they played out the land that I think they wanted to play out on their first main. So we see Hidden Herbalists playing out a Wild Negate and then something else maybe. Okay, using all their mana, abrading my AEther Vial, making it so that I definitely have to hit another land. Okay, so that's been 3 draws. I kept 3 lands, haven't hit another land yet. Echoing Truth, not amazing because there's no multiples on the board. I think the best line here is just to run out another Harbinger, continue to hopefully slow them down. They could, of course, like get a Bushwhacker kicked and get a big attack. I'm just playing defense here. If I can land a Master of Waves, things will turn around in a second. Opponent is fetching and shocking themselves, almost as if they're playing Death Shadow. And here is a kicked Bushwhacker. So the opponent shocked himself here, which makes me think they also have a path or a bolt or something. So we are going to kill as many creatures as we can here. So that means blocking, well, you know what? We could just block 1, take a bit more damage, and then have extra devotion if we do land a Master of Waves. So in the end, yeah, I just choose to block the Herbalists. I'm going to take 9 here and go down to 7. That's probably the last big attack that we can really afford to take. Still did not draw a land. Cannot get in with Harbinger. We're still on defense. Looks like the opponent didn't have the bolt, or at least felt like they didn't need to cast it yet. So I'm going to try to get value out of the Trickster here. We're sort of at the spot where we have to try to get value. So I'm going to target their Wild Necatl, so it'll make it into a 1/1, and then block like that, hoping to eat the Necatl and trade with the Bushwhacker. But the opponent has a Lightning Helix. They save their Wild Necatl. I at least prevent the damage from the Necatl coming through. The opponent gains life. I lose my Trickster, and I'm going to trade with the Bushwhacker. So for my 5th draw of the game, oh, the opponent has another creature. I draw another Master of Waves. Quite frustrating at this point. Echoing Truth still not really doing anything. If I just play Echoing Truth, I could bounce the Necatl, take 4, but then they just replay the Necatl. I chose to just play out a Lord here, just to chump. I'm hoping he doesn't have a Bolt or another Tarkus command. So we have to chump, which we never like to have to do, but we're going to take 4 and go down to 1. I'm going to... through an island. Praise Thassa. So my 6th draw, no, more than 6, 7th, because I had a Spreading Seas. 7th card from the top was a land. Get to play Master of Waves. You might say, well, is that enough? Well, we have 2 elementals and pro red. So yes, it's just enough for now. Opponent goes straight to combat. I'm going to have to double chump, and we don't even get to kill his Kurt Ape, but we do get to follow up with another Master of Waves if the opponent doesn't have something like a Bolt. Okay, another Wild Necatl, which makes Echoing Truth decent. So I drew a Silvergill, and I had to think for a little bit. I actually kind of tanked here. Should I just like play out a Silvergill and bounce the 2 Necatls with Echoing Truth? It seemed bad because if he has a... if he had a path, for example, he could remove one of my creatures and one of these guys would get through. So in the end, I realized I just had to get more bodies onto the table, and as 3 power creatures, my elementals now, they actually trade with all of these green creatures. So pass the opponent. They're going straight to combat again. They apparently like these attacks. So I'm going to throw all my elementals in front of the green creatures, and I can even double block and kill the Kurt Ape here. So no effects. And the opponent plays a land and passes. We are getting a little bit fortunate with the opponent whiffing here. I think here I want to play a Lord and leave up Echoing Truth. I'm not sure how necessary it is, but if they have like a Goblin Guide, something hasty, better to play defense here because I've got Island Walk and I've got lethal through 2 attacks here. Opponent goes down to 6, fetching a land. Untap and they scoop. Oof. That was one of the most stressful games of Magic I played in a while. If you remember, against humans, I went like 4 turns on 1 life. That's what happened in this game right now. Probably shouldn't have won that game. The opponent probably had a ton of live top decks between the Tarkus commands, Lightning Bolts, and Lightning Helices, but we got to slam Master of Waves, and you can see why this is a favorable matchup for us, because Master of Waves just instantaneously takes silver games. So, 1-1 against Naya Little Zoo. I'm going to go to game 3, and we'll see how this last round concluded. All right, back for game 3 against Naya Zoo. Opponent's going to be able to play here. This is a very nice hand, super interactive. Opponent mulligan to 6, but I think that they did go to the top this time. I can just double check. Why not? No, they went bottom again. So Sacred Foundry tapped. Very slow start. I'm going to balance out my island go. They have to have a 2-drop. So going down to 17. Hidden Herbalist. Maybe going to combo into some other creatures. Well, this is really frightening because now if they play a kicked Bushwhacker, we are like supremely on the back foot. But as it turned out, they didn't have any other action. So we drew a 4th land. And at this point, I think it's just Trickster mode. If they go to combat, and they do, I'm just going to tap down one of their creatures. And if they want to attack, I might even block and trade. But it looks like they don't want to attack. They played a 3rd land and passed. They're down to 3 cards in hand. Yeah, and that's all they have to do for their turn. I think we're kind of on the same plan now. We're going to try to Trickster, and then the following turn we can go like Harbinger, Phantasmal Image, or Lord Phantasmal Image after playing out Mutavault. So expecting maybe like a Lightning Helix on the end step or something, since they didn't play anything, but nothing. No action on my turn. During the beginning of combat, again, I'm just going to tap down that Herbalists, and opponent doesn't like attacks. And yeah, that's it. They just pass. They've got 4 cards in hand. Silvergill, a pretty nice card to draw. Another Mutavault. It's another body, but at least at this point, we've got mana to land a Master of Waves if we draw into them, and that's obviously really important in the matchup. So seems like the opponent's a little bit weak here. So we can go to attacks. If they have removal for the Lord, like kind of whatever. If they want to trade with a Trickster, that's fine. And they do. They path my Lord, which lets me get another island, thins the deck a little bit, opens up my ability to cast spells. And opponent further representing weakness here, they could have an Atarkus command, I guess, which would make his burning tree larger and let it live. But it doesn't, and he just trades. So Windswept Heath, Experiment 1. All right, so this is just looking like their Multi 6 is not working out. We continue drawing lands, but at least we've got some gas to make some things happen. Definitely going to play out a Lord here, and then I think I'm going to follow up with Phantasmal Image. I thought for a moment about copying the Silvergill just to keep some value flowing, but ultimately I went with the Lord. If we can outclass their creatures, we can close the game out sooner rather than later. So we're swinging for 12 here, hoping to just sort of slam the door on the opponent. Not sure what they've got in hand, but going for the double block on Silvergill looks like the opponent's in a really terrible position. We're going to take 8, go to 6, and go to 5. Temple Garden tapped, and yeah, they just scooped at that point. So I guess we got a little lucky in the last round. The opponent may have kept a hand, a Multi 6 with like 3 lands, Herbalists, Emissary, and Path to Exile, something like that. We hit our lands. We got a Mutavault, a couple of Tricksters really helped out. If things got rough, we had a Harbinger to help. And you can see from this league, sort of the density of creature matchups in the format. I did play against blue-white control, but from that point forward, it was tribal deck, Death Shadow deck, and now Naya Zoo. Now, might not be a very typical spread of decks, but they're all popular in their own right. Obviously, blue-white, one of the more popular ones, followed by humans and spirits. Naya Zoo, not really a contender in the format right now, but can definitely win games pretty easily on the back of powerful effects like Bushwhackers. And then Grixis Death Shadow is still around. It's still definitely way more prominent than Merfolk. So yeah, you should have your creature interaction in the deck in the form of Harbinger of the Tides, Merfolk Trickster. I've been loving Phantasmal Image in this game. He pushed damage to let me close out the game quickly. Against Control, he let me copy a Vendilion Click and ship away a Baneslayer Angel, which was incredible. Let's see. I feel like there were some other matchups where Phantasmal Image did good work. So if you guys want, I recommend trying out Phantasmal Image. It's been doing really well for me. Obviously, its impact in this league was way stronger than Curse Catcher would have been. So in the end, I went 4-1. Feeling pretty good with this list. The 16 islands have been feeling good so far. Let me know your thoughts on that. And please subscribe if you haven't already. And if you have a moment, please check out my Patreon page. I really appreciate all of you patrons. And I really appreciate all you guys tuning in to watch all these videos that I make. So have a nice day. Please tune in for the next video. And I'll see you guys soon.